Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I've done a video, so I'm actually going to stack a couple together. But we'll start with the easier of the three, potentially. Um, I want to talk about a concept that people should seriously start considering, especially because even though the world keeps kind of progressing, getting slightly better, political climate shift, all that stuff, at the end of the day, a lot of people are still worried. And even though we would like to consider ourselves as Minutemen, as prepared individuals, the reality is most of us are limited to what we can carry and what we can do. So I want to talk about a concept I'm calling the combat handgun. So first off, we kind of need to describe what's the difference between a regular handgun, a concealed carried handgun, a self-defense handgun, a home defense handgun, and eventually a combat handgun. Well, these are all terms that are basically synonymous and you can basically just all throw in together, but it's about intent and purpose, right? So a gun that I would carry for concealed carry is probably not going to be my ideal choice for combat because it's going to be smaller, it's going to have less rounds, and it's going to be probably not set up with a red dot or even a light or laser. Combat handgun, on the other hand, would. A home defense gun would have a lot of those things as well. Potentially, it'd be even bigger and have a more increased mag size because it's my home defense weapon. So I may need to shoot 20 to 30 rounds, and I'm going to need a flashlight or potentially even a fucking IR light. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the point is a combat handgun is a mentality just as much as it is a descriptor. Combat handgun is something that, if the worst case scenario happens, whether you're out and about or you're in your car or you get stranded somewhere at work, your concealed carry weapon is now your combat weapon. So let's get into that. There's many ways to basically describe what an ideal combat handgun is. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to toss most of that out the window, or we're just going to focus on three aspects. How good are you with the firearm? Okay, we need to ask ourselves an honest assessment. A combat handgun is something that you can consistently and reliably shoot. Okay, so if that happens to be your $2,000 staccato, cool. If that happens to be your cheap 38 stub nose, okay, not the best, not the worst, but you need to put the time in to get good with that firearm, and you need to trust it as much as any other firearm that you could be carrying or could be using in that role. The second one is setting up your firearm to be as combat ready as possible. So being in the military, we all kind of know the descriptors of combat ready, right? And not just not in the sense of just having your firearm loaded and things like that. Combat ready means, how do we set up our firearm to be the most combat effective possible? Now, for a lot of people, their concealed carry handgun is probably going to now be their combat weapon. So how do we augment and how do we set that up? Well, you're probably going to need to use extended magazines over regular magazines, right? So what I have here is a Springfield XDS. I have the +1 extension on with it. This is clear and safe. All you people freak out about shit. Do it a couple times just to make sure. Now, this is in 45. This is 6 shots. Okay? It's a little bit more than fucking... Actually, no, it's not even a little bit more. It's on par with the fucking 1911. This is not ideal in terms of capacity, but it is ideal in terms of concealability. And there needs to be a little bit of giving back and forth with it. Besides that, I also have myself a laser. The reason I'm choosing a laser over a light is 3 reasons. 1, a laser is the best for target acquisition when drawing and shooting immediately. Okay? People are going to say it's a red dot. You're not entirely wrong. However, I wear glasses, I have really bad astigmatism, and if my aim is not set up perfectly when I'm on a dot, it takes a little bit longer. And that's not a training issue. That is simply because I have very bad eyes, very bad astigmatism, and the glasses that I wear have a central focal point. So that's too much in a stressful scenario. And I've been in stressful scenarios, so I can say this. So I prefer the laser over a flashlight. Now, that being said, a flashlight is totally acceptable. If you want to use a flashlight, have a flashlight. The second reason I have one is because I am not trying to use my firearm in any sort of capacity other than a firearm. Okay. There are people who are like, oh, well, you should have a flashlight on top of a weapon light. Well, redundancy. I don't need two flashlights. I need a flashlight that identifies things for me, and I need a firearm to shoot things that are threatening to me. I don't want to confuse the two. I don't want mix-ups to happen. I will never run a flashlight on my firearm, even if it's a combat round. Sorry, I'll never carry a flashlight on a handgun, even if it's my combat handgun. The third reason is because it has a more minimal footprint than a flashlight, so I can still get some of the benefits of a flashlight. Obviously, I can't have 100% positive target acquisition ID. I get that. However, if I'm drawing and pulling out my firearm, I now have visual confirmation that this is the thing that I am aiming at, and it's less identifiable for others to suddenly see a small laser dot over suddenly getting blinded by a flash of light. So that's why I choose to do that. So I have a laser, I have an extended magazine. Again, this is a trade-off. I prefer to shoot higher caliber firearms, which means I'm going to have less capacity. That's a trade-off I'm willing to go over. And in a video, I will eventually explain all this stuff, but very long story short, my experiences, my capabilities, I have seen what has happened to people who've been shot multiple times due to being a medical professional from smaller arms and heavy calibers. And let me tell you this, there's a reason I choose heavy calibers, because that shit works. So all the FUDs, go ahead and side with me. All the people who are new age, go ahead and don't disagree. I don't care. It's my personal experiences. Beyond that, the third constant that we need to set up for beyond training and setting up your firearm to be combat accessible is you need to know your limitations and your restrictions. Okay? That's not necessarily a training thing, right? Because this is state legality. Okay? Whatever state you're at, as liberal or as conservative as it is, there's still some form of gun restriction when it comes to concealed carry. Again, we have to approach this as there's still rule of law. We need to conduct ourselves as normal as possible until a terroristic activity happens, or suddenly we all decide, fuck government, fuck the rules, game over. So you need to make sure your firearm is as compliant as possible, on top of as accessible as possible for you to be combat effective. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about here is this. This is a one-shot stabilizer. This is legal in all 50 states because this does not permanently attach to your handgun. It has basically a nice grip strip here. You actually kind of like scrape off some dead skin. And basically, you lock your handgun into it. I'm going to demonstrate that right here. ATF, don't come at me. My dog is dead, so you can't really fucking shoot it, but I still don't want that. Boom, there we go. If I let go, that comes off. If I go back, it's there. Now, you probably already noticed something, right? There's a little bit of travel, a little bit of play. So deploying this in a quick scenario is not going to be easy. Yes, I know, I'm left-handed, but I shoot firearms that are stocked with my right. So this is legal. This allows me to have extended capability, that second thing we were just talking about. Yes, I know, I flagged my arm. It happens when you shoulder carry. We're going to talk about that. Oh, we're empty. Remember? We're empty. We checked. It's a new shoulder holster, so the snap is taking some time to get used to. This is legal, okay? I can throw this in a backpack. This is going to augment my capability. This would probably be a lot more effective if I had a red dot. Totally agree with that. I may look into getting a red dot anyway and just spend that much more time training, because training is the only thing that solves the problem, right? Sometimes. There are physical limiters. Since this is illegal in all 50 states, this is something you throw in a backpack, you can have on you. You may not be able to just have a rifle that's, disassembled and stored in your backpack or in your truck. Again, we have to proceed as if there is rules, there is law and order, until there isn't. When there isn't law, this video is not relevant, because you shouldn't have a combat handgun. You should have a combat long arm, whether it's a shotgun or a rifle. I'm sure I'm going to piss people off by saying shotgun's even a potential, but you know what? Shotgun's my preferred choice, and honestly, unless I'm engaging people out of 100 yards, which I really shouldn't be because I live in an urban area, I don't want a rifle. I don't care about a rifle. I want something that if I pull that trigger, there's not going to be much to argue with me after. You know what I mean? So, yeah, That's what I feel people need to start getting onto. Now, can you do like a Flux a Flux Raider? Yeah, you could absolutely. I will not trust a 320. I personally fired a 320. I personally seen a fucking 320 misfire. I'm not wanting part of that. But there's Glock versions. There's some cheap ones from Recover Tactical. There's Universal Chassis. There's things like that. You could totally do that. I actually had one of the MCK, the Ronies. They changed their names, but I had one of the Ronies for this firearm. Joke was on me though. It doesn't fit the XDS. It fits the XD, but I didn't give a shit because I still love this handgun. But I sent it back. I liked it because it's something that didn't require disassembly. Your gun is as is. You stick it in there, it locks in, and then you start going. I thought having that in my backpack would be a force multiplier, something to help augment my combat effectiveness. Excuse me. Turns out it wasn't for the right firearm, but it also turns out it was too bulky, it was too cumbersome, and it just kind of seemed like it was too much and too unnecessary. Something like this is very minimal. It's not the most comfortable to shoot, and there are problems with it. You know, like there's a little bit too much play. Your sight alignment means that much more when your hand is the only thing keeping this motherfucker stabilized with your handgun. And I like, even if you can get like there's a cover that you can get for this that helps a little bit. Dude, you know what it's like to fire a fucking shitty brace over an actual stock. It's not fun, but it enhances your combat effectiveness. Have a red dot with an extended magazine, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to escape a situation, especially if there's not a lot of people carrying firearms in your area, which is tying to that third role, that third rule we're establishing. You can only operate within the legal means of your state currently. When that changes, carry whatever the fuck you want, however you want. Up until then, we are law-abiding citizens, and we are representatives of the gun movement and the two-way community. So don't please give people more fodder to fucking take away our guns even more. But the reason I bring this up is because, like I said, people still feel pretty scared about what's going on in the world. I personally think Trump is going to help in some aspects, but it's going to take years for everything that he's setting in motion to really roll out and be effective. So that also means I personally feel that there's going to be terrorist activity that happens, and I would much rather you have something realistic, legal, and still be prepared, rather than feel like, oh, well, fuck it, I'm not going to carry anything. Or worse, carry something that may put you in a jail cell at the end of the day. And I don't think anyone could really do much of anything when they're locked in the confines of a fucking prison. So that's my perspective on it. I was inspired to do this after getting this, but also from finally getting a semi-auto to carry, because I was carrying revolvers for a long time, just because that was what I felt was necessary. I didn't need ammo capacity. I need to worry about reloading. I need to worry about anything like that. But now I see that a lot of crime happens and it's multiple people, and I would rather have something that allows me to reload quickly and still have a heavy caliber versus, oh shit, I only got 5 shots with 357 and now I have to spend 3 minutes reloading. It doesn't take 3 minutes, but it's going to seem like 3 minutes during a gunfight. And I'd rather just give myself that little extra edge. However, I'm still utilizing the experiences of my time in the military and being a medical professional, and I'd rather give myself just a little bit more advantage. Even if I'm sacrificing ammo capacity, I'm increasing my combat effectiveness by having a slightly better caliber. That's all marginal. That's all subjective. I understand that. I'm not expecting everyone to go out and run 45s. Totally cool. If you run a 9mm, there's a reason why you need that extra capacity, right? So utilize that. Going over it once again, it's the thing you can shoot the best. The thing you spent the most time training on. I don't care what it is. It could be the cheapest handgun. It could be your most expensive handgun. But that's what you need to carry, and that's what you need to make combat effective as much as possible. Throw that red dot, throw that flashlight, throw your laser, throw your extended magazines. Maybe look at something like this that allows you to extend your capability. English is hard. Extend your capability without 3, compromising your legality. Okay? I want you out there. I want you practicing. I want you safe. I want you to not be in jail. So that's my perspective on it. If you just want to conceal carry, that's totally cool. All right. This is for the people who I think are kind of on my perspective and think that the world is still going to take some time. And personally, I live in a very urban area and I live just outside Chicago, and I have to unfortunately visit Chicago from time to time. And the crime has gotten pretty chaotic and random. And on top of that, we're a migrant shelter. So I personally feel within the near future, if any terrorist activity does kick off because of, what Sean Ryan's podcast has been saying and, all this other veteran stuff, I want to be as combat effective as possible. So throwing this in a backpack, having my extended mags, having my laser sight, and training is all going to make me that much more combat effective with my combat handgun. So let me know what your guys' perspective is on it. Let me know your personal choices for what would be a combat handgun. And yeah, that's that. Deuces.